Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. The girl Ryan had liked since we were kids was being forced into marriage. She came to him for help. In order to make sure the first deal for his new company went smoothly, I stopped him from leaving. By the time he went to save her, Emily had already died in a car crash. I was overwhelmed with guilt, but he told me it wasn't my fault. After that, he wrapped himself in a disguise of love and deceived me for 10 years. On our wedding day, he shattered my spine with a sledgehammer. He glared at me with hatred and said, "If you hadn't insisted on stopping me that day, she wouldn't have died." It turned out he had never forgotten about her. I said, "But if I hadn't stopped you that day, would you have the success and wealth you enjoy now?" He replied, "If I could trade all of it for her life, I'd rather be poor for the rest of my life." Later, I died in a fire. When I opened my eyes again, I was back 10 years earlier. This time I didn't stop him. Just as he wished, I let him live in poverty until death. 2 hours from now, my wedding is supposed to begin. I was filled with joy, but my groom broke my spine with a sledgehammer. In the happiest moment of my life, he dragged me from heaven into hell. He said he wanted me to crawl through life like a dog for the rest of my days. I lay on the floor, my once elegant makeup ruined, sweat from the pain sliding down my forehead. I screamed in despair. "Why, Ryan?" On Ryan's usually warm face was a coldness I had never seen before. "You really have the nerve to ask why?" he snapped. "Do you not remember Emily, the girl you got killed 10 years ago?" How could I possibly forget? Emily was our high school classmate. After graduation, she didn't go to college. Ryan and I both got into a top university in the city. In our sophomore year, with help from my father, Ryan started an internet company. That day, his company finally had a rare opportunity to collaborate with a major firm, an opportunity that could determine its survival. It was incredibly important. But right then Emily called Ryan. She was crying as she said, "My dad is forcing me to marry a man in his 40s. He's making me go register for marriage with him this afternoon. Ryan, please save me. I don't want to get married." Ryan immediately jumped up to leave. I stopped him. "You can't go." "I have to go," he said. "If you stop me today, we're not even friends anymore." His expression filled with fury pierced me like a sharp needle. But I tried to reason with him. "If you leave today, this deal will fall apart. The company could collapse. All the effort everyone's put in these past months would be wasted. So you can't leave. The civil office doesn't open until 2:30 in the afternoon. Once we finish the meeting, there will still be time to go save her. Ryan, the company isn't just about you. You have to think about everyone else involved." In the end, Ryan was convinced. That day, we successfully closed the deal. What I didn't expect was that by the time we went to find Emily, she had already run away from home. In a panic, she didn't look at the road and was hit by a speeding car. She died on the spot. If you hadn't insisted on stopping me that day, she wouldn't have died. You're the one who killed her. Ryan's roar dragged me back from my thoughts. I looked at the hatred in his eyes and suddenly found it laughable. Back then, Emily's death haunted me with guilt for a long time. Even if I hadn't directly caused it, I knew I had played a part. It was Ryan who comforted me, told me it wasn't my fault, and helped me slowly move on. Even though I knew he had once had feelings for Emily, I was still willing to grow old with him. I truly believed we were in love. But now in this moment, I finally realized just how deeply I'd been wrong. Ryan had never forgotten Emily. He didn't love me. The affection he showed was just a mask to numb me, so he could land the final blow. "So all these years you've been lying to me?" I asked. "This is what you deserve," he said coldly. "I let you live in comfort for 10 years. What more do you want? Emily died because of you. So the rest of your life, you owe it to her. Crawling like a dog is the only fate you deserve." Even as I struggled to hold back my pain, the tears still wouldn't stop falling. Ryan said that soon he was going downstairs to tell all the guests that the wedding was canceled because I had run away. He would take over my father's company, tell the world I had died, and then lock me in a basement, keeping me there for the rest of my life, never seeing daylight again. I knew he wasn't just saying it. He meant every word. What I didn't understand was how he could do this to me. We had known each other for more than 20 years. We were childhood sweethearts. How could he be so cruel to me? In the end, I couldn't help asking, filled with resentment. Do you seriously not feel anything for me at all? He answered coldly, I have only ever loved Emily in this life. It felt like 1,000 arrows pierced straight through my chest. The pain was so sharp. I coughed up a mouthful of blood. I raised my bloodshot eyes and stared at him. But have you ever thought about this? If I hadn't stopped you that day, would you have everything you have now? This wealth, this power? But he said, if I could trade it all to bring her back, I'd rather be poor for the rest of my life. I laughed bitterly. I had loved him for over 10 years, and in the end, I turned myself into a joke. The signs of his indifference had always been there. I was just too blind to tear off the mask and face the truth. But why? Why did he put all the blame on me? Why did he trample all over my feelings like that? So when the hotel caught fire and the flames surrounded me, I didn't panic. All I felt was regret. Regret and unwillingness. If time could start over again, I swore to myself I would never fall in love with Ryan. I would never give everything I had to help him. I would make sure he lived in poverty for the rest of his life. Maybe even heaven couldn't bear to watch anymore, because when I opened my eyes again, I was back 10 years ago. Ryan, help me please. Emily's voice snapped me out of my shock. I looked over and saw Ryan's face filled with anxiety. Emily, don't be afraid. I'm coming to get you right now, he said, and was about to rush out. Several others in the room blocked his way, trying to get him to think clearly and consider the consequences. They asked whether it was really the right time to leave. But Ryan wasn't listening to anyone. His expression darkened. Get out of my way. If you stop me, we're not friends anymore. No one could understand how he could be so irrational. I stood in the distance, watching him coldly, suppressing the rising hatred in my chest. Without hesitation, I walked over. I said, this deal with Joe Corporation is important to every one of us. If you want to leave, we can't stop you. But we won't pay the price for your selfishness. You want to go? Fine. But if you walk out that door, you'll have nothing to do with this company anymore. Agree to that, and we'll let you go. Since I was lucky enough to live again, I was not going to let him have it easy this time. Ryan's success in his past life didn't come from just his own hard work. It came from my father's help, from luck, and from the team of colleagues who worked alongside him. Now, I wanted to see what he could accomplish without any of that. Without the patient persuasion I gave him in the past, and with panic clouding his judgment, he didn't give it much thought before agreeing. But that wasn't enough. I quickly drafted a contract and had Ryan sign it. He was so desperate to leave, he didn't even read it carefully before signing his name. He probably thought I would never do anything to harm him. What he didn't know was that the moment he signed that paper, he gave up any chance of ever rising again. Without looking back, Ryan stormed off. Everyone else was a mix of angry and stunned. He really left. What do we do now? How are we supposed to explain this to Shao Corporation? I put the contract away, grabbed the materials I had prepared long in advance, and said if he could walk out like that on such an important day, it shows he never cared about the company or any of you. Someone like him who can't tell what's important isn't worth keeping. Let's go. Without him, we can still succeed. After successfully turning the tide, I led everyone to the meeting with Jiao Corporation. In this life, I would take all of Ryan's spotlight and glory for myself. By the time we walked out of the Jiao offices, we had sealed the deal, and I even secured better terms for the company than in my last life. My coworkers started looking at me differently. I never expected you to be this capable, Lisa. Of course, I was capable. I had always been capable, but I got used to standing behind Ryan, handing over every bit of credit that should have been mine. I kept thinking we were one family. There was no need to be so clear about who did what as long as the company kept growing stronger. What did it matter if anyone noticed my efforts? What I didn't expect was that my selfless giving would raise a heartless ingrate like Ryan. Ryan was my neighbor. We had grown up together, childhood sweethearts. I'd been trailing behind him since we were kids like a little shadow. Our parents even used to joke about arranging a marriage for us. Every time that came up, Ryan would grab my hand and say with a completely serious face, "Lisa, you're going to be my bride someday. You can't fall for anyone else. The adults would laugh every time they heard him say that. Even in my clueless childhood years, I had already tucked Ryan into a corner of my heart. I thought we'd grow up together just like that, carefree and happy. But in 8th grade, Ryan's family business went bankrupt. His father couldn't accept the failure and jumped off a building. His mother, who had lived the life of a pampered socialite for years and had loved her husband deeply, couldn't adapt to a life without money. The shock was too much for her. Her mind became unstable. One day, no one knows how, she wandered into the street and got hit by a car. No relatives were willing to take him in. Just like that, Ryan, once the golden boy, became a pitiful orphan. The drastic change turned the once sunny and outgoing boy into someone quiet and withdrawn. I remember looking at his eyes, full of despair, and truly worrying for him. A part of me felt uneasy. I was afraid something might happen to him, so I skipped school just to stay by his side every day. About 2 weeks after his parents passed, I woke up in the middle of the night to find him gone. I ran out in a panic and searched for him everywhere, eventually finding him just before the river swallowed him whole. I pulled him back with all my strength and held him as I cried. "I won't let you die. You can't die." His face showed a despair that no teenager should ever wear. "I don't have a family anymore. I have no one. I can't live like this. What's the point of staying alive?" His broken sobs made my own heart ache. "You still have me, Ryan. You have me. I'm your family now. I won't ever leave you. Not in this life." That day, I pulled him back from the edge of death. To give him stability, I asked my parents to adopt him. Gradually, the smile returned to his face. Our relationship grew even closer. I think it was that night, the night I saved him, that my innocent feelings for him finally began to blossom. I started imagining what our future would be like, getting married, having children. Those dreams made my days feel sweet, like living inside a jar of honey. In high school, we were placed in the same class, sitting at the same desk. Nearly the entire school knew how much I liked him. Even our teachers assumed we were together. When no one else was around, they'd tease me, saying, "When you two get married, don't forget to bring me wedding candy." I thought we'd be like the princess and prince from a fairy tale. Together forever, happily ever after. But during the winter break of our senior year, his heart began to drift away from me because that's when Emily appeared. Even though my parents treated Ryan like their own, he always felt like he didn't deserve it all. So after he turned 18, he started thinking about earning money on his own. He had excellent grades and with enough persistence, my parents eventually agreed not to stand in his way. During winter break, he found a job at a dessert shop. Every day he would come home and tell me about what happened there. At first, I didn't think much of it. But one day, I suddenly realized he had started mentioning his coworker Emily a bit too often. "She's really hopeless." He laughed. "She was trying to teach me how to make cakes, and it's so easy, but I just couldn't get it. I was totally useless. A customer gave her a hard time today. It wasn't even her fault, but she just stood there getting yelled at like she was glued to the floor. She couldn't say a word. Finally, she learned how to bake today. You should have seen it. The ugliest cake ever. But she was smiling like an idiot." Then his tone changed. "I've never seen parents so cruel. You have no idea how miserable her life is. Her dad came to the shop demanding money, and when she couldn't give him any, he hit her right there in front of everyone. You have no idea how angry I was." Just like that, Emily inserted herself between me and Ryan. I had never even met her. Yet I knew everything about her because Ryan told me. One day, when he brought her up again, I finally lost it. "Ryan, don't you think you've been talking about her a little too often lately? Don't tell me you've fallen for her." He froze. My words clearly caught him off guard. For a moment he looked genuinely shaken, but he quickly pulled himself together and said, "What are you talking about? How could I possibly like her? Are you jealous?" He smiled, cupped my face gently and added, "Silly girl, there's no room for anyone else in my heart but you." His earnestness eased my doubts, at least for a while. After all, Ryan and I had nearly 20 years of history together. I didn't believe he would fall for someone else so easily, but what I never expected was that in the end, Emily still forced her way into our lives. It turned out she had always attended the same school as us. She was just in another class, quiet and timid, almost invisible. Naturally, I never paid any attention to her. Funny, isn't it? We spent 2 years at the same school without even noticing each other. But once the new semester began, she started showing up constantly. At first, they just exchanged casual greetings when they bumped into each other. I told myself it was nothing. I had years of history with Ryan. I believed in what we had, so I didn't take Emily seriously. But Ryan's favoritism felt like a slap in the face. One weekend in March, I was studying at the library. On my way out, it started to rain. Since the library wasn't far from home, I called Ryan and asked him to come pick me up. He agreed without hesitation. But half an hour later, he called back saying he had run into an elderly lady without an umbrella and needed to walk her home. He told me to find my own way back. Thinking he was just doing a good deed, I didn't complain. I simply reminded him to be careful and ended the call. The rain wasn't too heavy, so I decided to grab a cab. Before heading home, I remembered how much Ryan loved the candied chestnuts sold near the library. Even in the rain, I went out of my way to buy them for him. But as I was walking back, bag of warm chestnuts in hand, I saw something that stopped me in my tracks. Ryan and Emily were standing not far away, wrapped in each other's arms. There was no old lady. That was a lie. Emily was crying, sobbing. No one will ever like me. Everyone hates me. Why do they all hate me? Am I really that awful? I saw Ryan gently stroking her hair, comforting her. Don't be silly. I like you. You're better than anyone else. In that moment, all I could think of was how he'd once told me, swearing up and down, that I was the only one in his heart, that he would love only me for the rest of his life. What a cruel joke. Without a word, I hurled the bag of chestnuts at them and ran. In the chaos of Ryan's shocked expression, I turned and fled. When I got home, I locked myself in my room. I didn't eat. I didn't drink. I just wanted to disappear. Outside my door, Ryan kept knocking and knocking. His voice sounded frantic, even tearful. Lisa, please open the door. Let me explain. It was nothing. I was just comforting her. I swear nothing happened. Please don't ignore me, Lisa. If it was really nothing, why were they hugging like that? I couldn't bring myself to trust him. We didn't speak for a whole week. I refused to answer his calls or look at him. Eventually, he knelt in front of me, crying his heart out, begging over and over again. Please don't leave me, Lisa. You're all I have. Please don't leave me. In the end, I gave in. I still couldn't bring myself to be cruel to him. After that day, Ryan really did cut ties with Emily, at least on the surface. But was that truly the end of it? Back then, I still trusted him. I believed everything he said. When he promised he'd never see her again, I took his word for it. But if they really hadn't seen each other again, why did Emily have Ryan's new number? I clearly remembered, he changed his number after we started college. Even if she'd gotten it from someone else, how could someone he supposedly hadn't spoken to in 2 years cause him to look so nervous? That was the moment something inside me snapped. Ryan had been lying to me all along. Even if there was no future left between us, I had to get to the bottom of everything. So I hired a private investigator to look into what Ryan had been up to for the past 2 years. After Ryan stormed off that day, he never came back. Most of the employees at the company were his old college classmates, people who had joined because they admired him and believed in his vision. But after what he did that day, leaving everyone behind without a second thought, the illusion everyone had of Ryan completely shattered. With my subtle prodding, people's opinion of him only worsened. At first, some worried that without him, the company wouldn't survive. But when I took over Ryan's responsibilities, I actually handled them better than he did. It was as if his presence or absence made no difference at all. Soon, no one even cared whether he came back. Ryan returned a week later. He walked into the office like nothing had happened, no trace of guilt on his face. He still acted like a leader, trying to order everyone around. That's when I threw the contract he had signed right into his face. According to this agreement, I said, I'm buying out all of your shares. I calculated that I owe you $1 million, but your startup capital came from my dad. After offsetting everything, we're even. Here's your stuff. I've already packed it up. Since you're here, You can take it with you now. Ryan's expression darkened. That was when he finally realized the contract he signed wasn't just for show. Lisa, this joke's gone far enough. I'm not joking, I said flatly. I don't believe someone who could so irresponsibly abandon his team on such an important day just to chase after his own emotions has any right to lead this company. That day, I gave you a choice. The company or Emily. You chose Emily. So now you'll live with the consequences of that choice. I went to save her, he shouted. What? Like the rest of us were dead? Only you could go? And don't you think your behavior was completely inappropriate? Ryan, can you really say you felt nothing for her? He couldn't answer me. But the way I confronted him, the sharpness in my tone made him furious. And with the others in the company already harboring resentment toward him, he had no footing left. He didn't respond to my question. Instead, he sneered. You all really think you can succeed without me? One day, you'll be begging me to come back. Everyone watched him leave stunned. There was disbelief in their eyes. How could he be like this? Even I had rarely seen Ryan so arrogant. But suddenly, it all made sense. Maybe this was who he truly was. Maybe I had been deceived by his mask all along. I wasn't going to give him any chance to make a comeback. I had my lawyer terminate every position Ryan still held in the company. Right then, the private investigator I'd hired also sent me his report. And just as I had expected, Ryan had never cut ties with Emily. During the second half of our senior year, they didn't meet up often, probably afraid I'd catch them. But starting in our second semester of freshman year, their meetings became frequent. There were even multiple records of them checking into hotels together. Back then, Ryan had just started his company. It was a difficult time, and he often didn't come home. He told me he was sleeping at the office because he was too busy, and I believed him. I even worried about his health. But the truth was he was staying at hotels with Emily. Even though all I felt toward him now was hatred, I was still furious thinking about all the nights I'd been lied to. I had to take several deep breaths before I could continue reading the report. Then I opened a video file in the folder and I froze. In the video, Emily was playing with a cat, but not just any cat. It was the one my grandmother had given me years ago. My grandma and I had always been close, so the cat meant a lot to me. That cat went missing during my first year of college. I looked everywhere for it but never found it. I even fell seriously ill from the stress. I never imagined Emily had ended up with it. I immediately called the private investigator and asked about the cat. His answer chilled me to the bone. He said the cat hadn't just been picked up by Emily. Ryan had given it to her. My chest tightened painfully as I tried to process his words. Apparently, one day when I was out, Emily happened to see the cat. She begged Ryan to steal it for her, and he actually agreed. I couldn't believe it. The man I had loved for so many years turned out to be worse than a monster. He knew exactly how much that cat meant to me. It was like a piece of my soul. After it disappeared, I got so sick. That cat almost cost me my life. But Ryan, the one who made it happen, acted like he didn't see a thing. He even pretended to comfort me, saying, "Even if the cat's gone, he's so adorable. Whoever finds him will surely love him." Back then, I thought he was just trying to make me feel better. But now, I finally understood. He said that because he knew exactly where the cat was. That's when I realized just how fake and disgusting he truly was. My stomach turned so violently I ran to the bathroom and threw up. When I came out, my eyes were bloodshot. "Where's my cat?" I asked. "Is he still with Emily?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. The investigator finally said, "That cat seems to mean a lot to you, but your health matters more." His hesitant tone filled me with dread. "Just say it," I snapped. "Whatever it is, I can take it." He sighed heavily. "Your cat is dead. Emily abused him to death. I hacked her computer. There were videos. Do you want to see them?" My eyes burned. "Send them. All of them." A few seconds later, the videos came through. My hands were shaking. I hesitated for a long time before finally pressing play. And then I saw her. Emily, like a maniac, had her hands wrapped around my cat's neck, shaking him violently. "So you're rich, huh? You think you're so special," she shouted. "But the man you love came running to me the moment I cried. You're so pathetic. It's laughable." My cat struggled in her grip and managed to scratch her hand. That must have triggered her rage because the next second she slammed him hard against the ground. She picked up a thick book. Again and again she hit him with it. The sounds, the tortured, helpless cries stabbed at my heart like needles. My baby, my poor Snowball. I watched as he curled into a ball, broken and limp on the cold floor. I couldn't stop the tears. They poured down uncontrollably, blurring my vision. Hatred boiled in my veins. I wanted nothing more than to rip her apart. Where is she now? I demanded. I'm going to kill her. It didn't take me long to find her. Emily's current address. I had thought even if Ryan helped her, he'd only put her up in a hotel. But no, he had moved her into his apartment. The sickest part? That apartment had been bought by my dad. Earlier this year, Ryan said he needed to live closer to school and work. My dad had always treated him like his own son, so he didn't hesitate to hand over the deed. I even joked about moving in with him, but Ryan told me he needed his space and turned me down. And now he'd moved Emily in instead. It wasn't even about heartbreak anymore. I was just utterly disgusted, furious. That apartment belonged to my family. How could they have the nerve to live there? I stormed up and banged hard on the door. It opened quickly. The moment Emily saw me, her face registered a flash of surprise, followed by the smug satisfaction she couldn't quite hide. But she masked it just as fast, putting on that usual timid act of hers. "Lisa," she said sweetly, "you're here to see Ryan. He's not home right now." I didn't say a word. I just stared her down. She started to squirm under my gaze and rambled on. "I know you and Ryan are close. I didn't want to stay here really, but he was worried about me being in a hotel alone. But don't worry, we're completely innocent. Nothing's going on between us." She emphasized completely innocent, like she wanted to make sure I heard it loud and clear, like it was a performance. But I caught the flash of mockery in her eyes. She must have felt pretty proud of herself just then. I ignored her and spoke calmly. "My grandmother gave me a cat before she passed. I cared about him deeply. One day he disappeared. I searched for him for a long time and was heartbroken when I couldn't find him. Tell me, where do you think my cat ended up?" Her face stiffened. "How would I know?" "You really don't know?" I said, stepping forward. "Didn't you beg Ryan to steal him for you?" Emily's eyes widened. She hadn't expected me to know. But just as quickly, she dropped the act. "Yeah, the cat did end up with me," Emily said smugly. "But I never begged Ryan to steal him. I just casually mentioned how much I liked the cat, how badly I wanted him, and he brought him to me. Since you already know that, I guess you also understand what kind of relationship Ryan and I really have. Ryan loves me. He never liked you. In fact, he can't stand you. If it weren't for your father's influence, he wouldn't even bother talking to you. So Lisa, if you're going to lose anyway, why not just back out gracefully? Don't wait for Ryan to be the one to dump you. That'll only be more humiliating." The words had barely left her mouth when I slapped her across the face. I didn't hold back. Her lips split and blood trickled down the corner of her mouth. She stared at me in disbelief. "You hit me," she gasped. "You're wrong," I said coldly. "Hitting you once isn't nearly enough. I'm going to kill you." I slapped her again and again. Then I grabbed a nearby tennis racket and smashed it against her body with full force. "You want Ryan? Take him. You think I care?" I shouted. "But you crossed the line when you took it out on my cat. That cat was the last memory my grandmother left me. How dare you do that to him?" I screamed until my throat went raw, slamming the racket down again, and again until it snapped in my hands. Emily collapsed to the floor like a dead dog, her face swollen beyond recognition, bruised and bloated like a pig's head. She must have been truly terrified by how vicious I looked. Shaking all over, she whimpered, "Murder is illegal. You can't kill me." I ignored her. I was seriously considering heading into the kitchen to grab a knife and end it all right there. But that was when Ryan came back. The moment he saw Emily injured on the floor, the way he looked at me, he looked like he wanted to strangle me. "Ryan, help!" Emily cried out, crawling toward him on all fours. "Lisa's trying to kill me." Ryan rushed to her side and wrapped his arms around her protectively, then turned on me, eyes burning with rage. "Lisa, how dare you?" he growled. I laughed. That's my question for you, Ryan. How dare you steal my grandmother's cat and give him to her? He froze but quickly regained his composure, showing no hint of guilt. Okay, yes, that was wrong of me, he said casually. But you already have everything. Missing a cat isn't going to ruin your life. Emily, on the other hand, has had nothing since she was a kid. That cat made her happy. I don't think it's something worth holding a grudge over. I stared at that all too familiar face and suddenly found it repulsive. How could I have ever loved something so beneath a human being? Without saying a word, I stepped up to him and punched him square in the face. He wasn't expecting it and stumbled backward several steps. When he opened his mouth to yell, a gush of blood poured out, mixed with a broken tooth. Emily shrieked. Ryan, you're bleeding. My arm hung limply, shaking from the impact. My hand throbbed with pain, but my heart felt incredibly satisfied. I gave a cold smile. I've been in a terrible mood today, but after hitting you, I suddenly feel great. It's just one tooth. Someone as powerful as you shouldn't mind, right? Ryan's face turned black with fury, darker than the bottom of a pot. You're not welcome here. Get out, he snapped. I burst out laughing. You're unbelievable, Ryan. Telling me to leave. Did you forget who paid for this apartment? My father did. His name is still on the deed. It's hilarious. Honestly, after a few years of living off my family, you really forgot your place. I shook my head, disgusted. I must have been blind to ever fall for a shameless piece of trash like you. Then I looked him dead in the eye and said, let me make it official. I don't want you anymore. You're nothing to me. My family has no ties to you from this moment on. Thank God we never put your filthy name on our household registry. Now take your little pet and get the hell out of here. I tore through the last shred of his dignity, his face twisted in shame. His eyes burned with open hatred as he sneered at me. Lisa, did you actually think I ever liked you? I've hated you for so long, it makes me sick. Just because your family took me in, you all thought you were saints. None of you ever really treated me like a human being. If it weren't for your dad threatening me in senior year, telling me to stay with you or get out, I never would have stayed. You and your whole family are more disgusting than sewer rats. Ryan's shamelessness once again shattered everything I thought I knew. How could he say something so vile? Did he forget that if it weren't for my parents taking him in, he never would have had those 10 peaceful years? Sure, their care may have come from my feelings for him, but the love they gave was real. It was true that my dad once told him during our senior year that if he didn't feel the same way about me, he should leave. But what was wrong with that? Everyone knew how much I loved him. If there was no future between us, of course, we'd ask him to leave. It would have been less awkward and spared me more pain. It was meant kindly, yet from his mouth, it sounded so cruel. I stared at him with pure disdain. No one ever stopped you from leaving, I said. You stayed because you wanted the money. Don't paint yourself as a victim. You wanted both the benefit and the pity. How could you say these things and not feel disgusted with yourself? He went pale. His lips parted, then shut again. He couldn't find any words. Then Emily, still lying on the floor, suddenly chimed in. You think you can just beat me up and get away with it? Ryan, call the police. I'm pressing charges. But I didn't flinch. Go ahead, I said coldly. Worst case, I get locked up for a month. But you stole my cat. That cat was worth 50 grand. I still have the receipt. If I file a theft report, you could both end up in prison for 10 years. So still want to report me? Ryan's face changed. He knew better than anyone how much that cat was worth. Realizing how serious this could get, he rushed to cover Emily's mouth. Get out, I said, my voice final. My cold, merciless tone visibly enraged Ryan. His pride wouldn't allow him to stay any longer. Fine, we'll leave, Emily. Go pack your stuff. Emily looked reluctant, but she went to gather her things anyway. Soon, the two of them came out, luggage in hand, but I had already called the security guards, who now stood blocking the door. Ryan narrowed his eyes. What's this supposed to mean? I looked at their bags. When your family went bankrupt, your parents left you with nothing. For nearly 10 years, every shirt, every belt, every dollar you spent came from my family. I could have fed a dog with the money we gave you. And since you think my family is so disgusting, what makes you think you deserve to take any of this with you? He froze, humiliated. In a fit of rage, he flung his suitcase aside. Take it then, like I care. Emily tried to leave with hers, but I signaled the guards and they snatched it from her. What are you doing? That stuff's mine, she screamed. I ignored her and unzipped the case. Ryan shouted, Lisa, you've gone too far. I pulled out most of the clothes and threw them on the floor. Don't think I don't know who bought these, I said. Ryan did, and we both know where his money came from, so you have no right to take them. Then I pointed at what they were wearing. Take those clothes off. All of them. Even the underwear. My family paid for that too. Lisa, that's too much, Ryan growled. I didn't even blink. Realizing I was dead serious, Ryan finally gave in. He handed Emily some cash and sent her to buy clothes, cheap, poorly fitted ones. The two of them stood at the doorway in their discount outfits, glaring at me. Lisa, Ryan hissed, you'll pay for this. One day, you'll regret everything you did today. I stared at him and finally realized just how foolish he was. We were already completely done. Did he really think I'd ever give him the chance to rise again? After that, I told my parents everything Ryan had done. They had truly treated him like a son. They never imagined that, after 10 years, they'd raised such a thankless snake. My father was especially furious when he found out Ryan had deceived me for years, and that he was the reason my beloved cat had died. He didn't hesitate. He called in every favor, pulled every string, and completely destroyed Ryan's career. Ryan dared to burn bridges with my family only because he was too confident in his own abilities. But before he ever reached true success, his flawed character closed door after door for him. I didn't hesitate to spread the truth about everything Ryan had done. The image of him as an ungrateful backstabber quickly took root in everyone's mind. No company wanted someone like that on their team. No business was willing to cooperate with a man they couldn't trust. If a family who had raised him for 10 years still couldn't tame this ungrateful dog, how could anyone else expect better? So whether it was job hunting or seeking partnerships, Ryan hit wall after wall. Emily still believed in him. She stayed by his side, convinced he would succeed eventually. But how could I let them live comfortably? I had someone leak their address to Emily's family. Her father and brother were both gamblers, men who'd sell out their own blood for cash. Once they had the address, they came knocking every day, harassing them nonstop. Emily eventually had no choice but to secretly sell the necklace Ryan had given her. Her father and brother took the money straight to the gambling tables. When it ran out, they came back for more again and again. They drained every last bit of value out of Ryan. After a full year of failed job applications and fruitless attempts to start a business, Ryan gave up entirely. I never stopped him from taking low-paying jobs, but he still saw himself as some kind of prince. He refused to stoop that low. Eventually, I heard he'd been influenced by Emily's father and brother. He got addicted to gambling too. By the time he was like a withered insect at the end of fall, unable to jump anymore, I couldn't even be bothered to care. In the second year after our graduation, our class president organized a reunion, and I attended. Over the past few years, I had used my knowledge of the future to bring my company to the level Ryan had taken 10 years to reach in my previous life. Many of my classmates now worked for me. The moment I arrived, they greeted me with warm smiles and offered me toast after toast. My eyes scanned the room. I'd agreed to come because the class president told me Ryan would be attending until I saw his pathetic downfall with my own eyes. That last shred of bitterness inside me would never go away. About halfway through the reunion, he finally showed up. Everyone turned to look at him, their eyes filled with disbelief. Once he lost my family's support, and with his obsession over making it big, he had completely neglected his studies. He failed so many classes in junior year that he couldn't even graduate. Though he seemed to have cleaned himself up for the event, the defeat in his eyes was unmistakable. Most people offered him a quick hello, then moved on. No one was interested in talking to him. He sat alone in the corner, devouring the food on the table like he hadn't eaten in days. His behavior earned him quiet glares of disgust. Once upon a time, he'd been the star of the school, admired by so many, and now he was nothing. After sitting for a while, I excused myself to go to the restroom. When I stepped out, Ryan was already waiting. The moment he saw me, he dropped to his knees. He slapped himself across the face repeatedly. Lisa, I was wrong. I was so wrong, he cried. I didn't realize until now that the only person I truly love is you. Just you. Please forgive me. Let's start over. Okay. I leaned in and whispered. But that's not what you said before, is it? You said you only loved her. That if being with her meant living in poverty for the rest of your life, you'd do it gladly. Have you forgotten? Ryan stared at me in shock, utterly speechless. Do you remember what you did to me? I said, my voice trembling with rage. You shattered my spine with that thick wooden stick. Do you? Our hatred runs deeper than the ocean. And now you want me to forgive you? How dare you? And you're wrong about something else, I added coldly. I was reborn too. That day, the day he insisted on leaving to save Emily, I saw it in his eyes. That same look of hatred I saw the day he let me burn to death. There was no doubt in my mind. Ryan had been reborn too. Good. That made it even better. I could make my revenge hit harder. Congratulations, I told him. Your wish from your past life finally came true. As I walked away, Ryan chased after me. He fell to his knees again, bowing, forehead hitting the floor. I was wrong, Lisa. It was all my fault. I was blind. I was a fool. Please forgive me. When I showed no reaction, he hesitated, then muttered. It's okay if you don't forgive me. But could you give me a little money? There's nothing left to eat at home. At that moment, Emily came running out. She wasn't even 25 yet, but her face looked worn, like someone in her 40s. It was clear she'd been through a lot these past few years. When she saw me, she froze for a second, but hatred quickly clouded her expression. She walked straight over to Ryan, grabbed him and shouted, Why are you begging her? Everything that's happened to you is her fault. The image of her killing my cat suddenly flashed through my mind. Her choking him, slamming him to the floor, beating him with that thick book. Every time I thought about it, I wanted to rip her apart. You want money, right? I said coldly. If you satisfy me today, I'll give you 10 grand. Ryan didn't hesitate for a second. He lunged forward and began punching and kicking Emily without mercy. Ryan, are you insane? You're hitting me for her. Emily screamed. It's all your fault, he shouted. If you hadn't seduced me, I never would have broken up with Lisa. My life wouldn't be what it is now. You ruined me. This is all because of you. His eyes were wild, filled with rage. To him, Emily was no longer anything but a target of hatred. A few slaps weren't enough. He grabbed a discarded stainless steel rod nearby and began beating her with it. Her blood-curdling screams reminded me of my cat's cries. I wondered if Emily had ever imagined she'd end up like this. Soon, she went completely silent. Watching her curled up on the ground, I felt bored. Nothing more. I took the 10,000 from my bodyguard, flicked my wrist, and threw it all in the air like garbage. As I left, I glanced in the rearview mirror. Ryan was crawling on the ground like a dog, scrambling to pick up the bills one by one. How poetic. Half a month later, I received news from my former class president. Ryan was dead. Turns out, after picking up the money that day, he'd gone straight back to gambling. When Emily's brother found out he had cash, he came knocking again. Ryan refused to give him anything. The argument escalated. Blades came out. Ryan was hacked to death on the spot. Emily screamed and tried to flee but ended up being struck by a runaway car. No matter how much he tried to escape it, Ryan still couldn't change his fate from our previous life. I let out a sigh when I heard the news, then promptly put it behind me. Just then, I heard a soft meow. I turned around and saw the new cat my mom had bought me, happily sprawled across the couch, licking his paws contentedly. As I sat there, watching the little cat stretch lazily on the couch, warmth slowly filled the hollow space in my chest. He looked nothing like Snowball, the cat my grandmother had given me, but somehow his gentle presence calmed me in the same way. Maybe it wasn't about replacing what was lost, but learning to accept the love that came after. So many years of pain, betrayal, and regret had twisted my life into something I could barely recognize. And yet here I was, still standing, still breathing, stronger than ever. I had taken back everything that had been stolen from me. More than that, I had found peace. Not through revenge, but but through reclaiming my own power. Ryan and Emily were gone. Their names no longer held weight in my heart. They had made their choices, and fate had delivered its answer. Now the sun streamed through the windows, warm and golden. The company I'd built was thriving. My parents were healthy. I was surrounded by people who truly cared for me. Not out of obligation, but by choice, and for once, I wasn't afraid of what came next. I reached out and stroked the cat's fur gently. He purred, rubbing against my hand, his small body warm and full of life. "Welcome home," I whispered. And this time, I knew I would be okay.